postmenopause, this isn't going to change anymore. So having these new operating behavioral medicine, behaviors for the new operating system on how to manage heat or vasoregulation is really important postmenopausal. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Your Second 50, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Your Second 50. If you're joining me on this episode, then you are in my 6-part series on how to live in your new postmenopausal body. And obviously this is directed to females who are over 50 and 60 and 70. I see a lot of information out on the internet, all geared towards, basically they're talking about menopause for females, but much of what is being covered is when you're in perimenopause and the ups and downs of the estrogen as it's kind of doing what I call its dance of death. And so there's a lot of erratic symptoms that you're dealing with when you're in perimenopause, and a cycle that you're not sure when you're going to get it and what it's going to be like when you do get it, the moodiness that comes with this kind of labile or up and down hormonal dance of death as it's on its way towards decreasing into postmenopause, the hot flashes that can come out of nowhere, and other symptoms. Those are all perimenopause. And the theme to those are kind of like erratic and non-cycle. They're not in a cycle, so you never know when they're going to hit. But what I'm going to address in this series is now when that phase is done and you are now, estrogen is down to the low where it's going to be maintained now for the rest of your life. Progesterone is down to the low where it's going to be maintained for the rest of your life. You are now living in a body that is not the same as what you've known for most of your life, with a cycle of a 28-day flow of ups and downs of estrogen and progesterone as you go through a 28-day cycle. And then the erratic phase of perimenopause, you're now in no more erratic, but the hormones of reproduction are now gone, and that's affecting many other systems of your body. And it's like a new operating system. I have many, many, many individual clients coming in, women who are, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years post-menopause and are struggling with a mix of states of being. I don't even want to call them symptoms because they're in the new state and they don't know how to manage it. So that's what this series is about. So this is a 6-part series, and in each section of the 6, I'm going to be addressing a specific, new operating system when you're in postmenopause, and then what can you do about it? All right. And just FYI, why do I get to say that I'm an expert on this? Well, number one, I'm 60. And I had late menopause, honestly. So I had it at 59. But I'm a year into postmenopause, so I have my own experience. But I have specialized in over 50 for over a decade now, and so I have hundreds of women, if not thousands of women, that are postmenopausal that I've helped through, how to find the new operating system for the new you once you're done with the perimenopause. And I've been in the fitness and health industry for 42 years. You can see my credentials on the backboard. These are just some of them. I've amassed a lot of knowledge. All right. So that's why I say I know what I'm talking about with this. All right. So that said, the first new operating system that you have to know how to deal with when you're in postmenopause is what is termed vasomotor regularity or regulation. And, you can Google that and look it up. But basically what that means is that your body is now struggling to maintain a homeostasis when it comes to heat regulation. All right. And this is very different than hot flashes, although sometimes you might feel like you're getting a hot flash. It's more like a hot spell or a hot state and an inability to kind of manage it, or a different ability to manage it than when you were younger. For instance, for myself, it's never been too hot for me. No matter, the heat index could be 130, humid, hot, sun, and I would go out and do my athletic training in the middle of the day. People say, "What are you doing?" But I was able to regulate it. Well, that is all different now that I'm in postmenopause. And even if you're not an athlete, but if you are, that's, you're going to identify with what I just said. But even if you're not an athlete, your comfortableness with being able to be in the hotter phases of an annual cycle. If you live in I live up in the Northeast of America, so we have a hot summer and a cold winter. And the other main way that women I have to help them to find a new way in their new operating system of their new body is sleep interruption. Where when you're a younger woman, many women that are having heat regulation issues now post-menopause were always cold when they were younger, but now it's like, you will wake up hot. Even if you haven't sweat through your bedding like you did with a hot flash in perimenopause, it's interrupting your sleep. That is probably one of the biggest heat regulation vasomotor complaints that I get from women. Because once you're postmenopause, sleep is like gold. You need it for body regeneration. We're older. We need that regeneration overnight. When you're not sleeping well, life just is not pretty. And we might not be sleeping well for a variety of reasons, but the one I'm talking about now is heat regulation, waking up because you're hot. Your partner is, you used to sleep wrapped around each other, and now it's like if they come anywhere near you in the bed, you're like, oh my God, you got to get away from me. Peeling off covers all night long, just heat. And then during the day, like I said, an inability to manage your heat. So that makes you it makes it more difficult to just do your everyday activities that you normally would do on very hot days. And then, as I alluded to, if you're a fitness woman or an athlete still competing in events like I am, it can become a liability. You can actually, hurt yourself because of the inability to regulate heat. You can have heat stroke or, various heat regulation issues when you're actually performing and exercising and training. All right, so heat regulation. Number one, estrogen helped to drive blood, and the blood is what carries nutrition and everything, but also when you're hot, your capillaries dilate and they open up, and then the blood flow is pulled from the core towards the skin where the heat is disseminated. Estrogen was a primary player in the regulation of that. And now when it's gone, we are less proficient at being able to draw the heat out of the core and then bring the blood into the periphery to disseminate the heat. So we are now overheating inside. All right. So that is one of the changes that comes with being in postmenopause. And as I said, it'll affect day-to-day activities and your heat regulation. It also affects your sleep. All right. So, unless you bring in estrogen again and do some hormonal therapy, and that might be an option if that's something you're exploring with your doctor. And I'm going to talk about that more in a subsequent episode in this series. But for right now, let's not talk about doing any sort of hormonal, enhancement. And what can we do from what I call behavioral medicine? All right. So many things that we can do, and all of which I've experimented with and do help me as well. So I know they're going to help you. And I've already given some of these tips to, my hundreds of women that I've worked with in postmenopause. So these have all been vetted already, is I guess my point. All right. So number one, let's talk about daytime. So, when you think about putting perfume on, you put them on your pulse points, because that's where the blood is closest to the surface of your skin. So, you've got under your back of your ears, on the inside of your elbow, right at your wrist, the back of your neck, the back of your knees. All right. These are areas where, if you're struggling with heat maintenance during the day, you can get small little ice packs like this. This is actually a Velcro one, and wrap this around like a pulse point, like right around your elbow. Let's just say if you're sitting out at the pool or you're in a picnic with your family, you can keep these in a cooler, and then, there's even smaller ones than this, but this is one I use. And then, put it around the back of your neck. And now what you're doing is you're taking the limited blood and the without the estrogen, there's a compromised ability to get the heat disseminated. So now you're adding right where the arteries and the veins are at the closest to the skin, some cooling effect. So that helps to now cool the blood that's there. And now you're circulating back into your body, cooler blood to help to get back into the core. So think about perfume spots. And then you can even use ice cubes. If you're having a cool drink with ice cube, put one on your elbow and then fold it, kind of rub it with your hand in a napkin on the back of your neck. So thinking about pulse points, the back of your ears, and using ice or cold therapy to help with the heat management during the day. I am so excited to announce yoursecond50.life. I have been working in the fitness industry with individuals, both men and women, over 50 years old for 42 years, and really specialized in the last 10 on over 50. I'm over 50 myself by a long shot. And I've helped literally thousands of men and women both to lose the extra body fat that they gain in the second half of their life. 2, feel better in their own bodies energetically. I have helped people to reverse and eliminate health problems, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pre-diabetes, symptoms of menopause, to name just a few. On this platform, you will have access to an entire body of resources, exercise videos, mini courses, eating plans that are specially designed for over 50 men and women because there's special needs for our demographic. And in addition to the virtual resources that you'll have access to if you join at any time that you'd like, you also have access to me for one-on-one coaching through a group coach call every month. So you can bring your specifics and we can address those as you're also getting information that is specific to the over 50 population. 50s, 60s, 70s, and now 80s is the demographic that I'm working with. So it's yoursecond50.life, yoursecond 50.life. Go check it out. It might be the single best thing that you've looked at like in your second 50s. All right. Another point that you can do is, we disseminate heat through the top of our head and our feet. So definitely if you're having heat regulation problems, you want to try to uncover your feet. Be barefoot, walking on the earth, or just in a pair of sandals, but without socks on. Uncover your feet. If you're somebody who slept with feet covers at night, don't do that now that you're in postmenopause. Other heat regulation things for during the day. I'm going to cover some more things about at night in just a second. Drinking hot drinks and drinking things high in or having things high in caffeine. That is all heat. They're going to those increase the heat and the core temperature in your body. And so if you're struggling or it's the summer, you might want to have iced coffee if you want to have the coffee, or maybe a green tea instead, iced green tea, because caffeine, and especially caffeine in a hot drink, is going to more compromise you in your ability to regulate core temperature. Along the same lines, spicy foods, they are, again, going to increase heat in your digestive system and then in the core. And now if you're struggling with heat regulation, spicy foods are probably not the choice that you'd want to make in the middle of the summer. And again, along the same lines in what you're ingesting, very high fat foods, even healthy fats like nuts, for instance. It's not going to do you any favors to ingest high fat foods if you're struggling with heat regulation, because they are very consolidated energy. They take a longer time to digest, and they are, increasing the core temperature for the digestion of them. Any fat food, high fat food, cheese, fried foods, like I said, nuts, high fatty meats, anything fat, even healthy fats, too much avocado, for instance. These things just take longer to digest, and therefore they increase your core heat, and we're compromised post-menopause with core heat to begin with. So you want to minimize. I'm not saying not to eat those things. I'm just saying you want to minimize that, and you want to especially minimize those when you're, when it's a hot part of the day or the hot part of a season, right? All right. So now let's talk about at night, because again, this is one of the biggest complaints, because when the heat regulation is now starting to affect sleep on any sort of consistent basis, it affects every part of your existence. So a couple tips for this. Obviously, you want to sleep in a cooler room now, but not just a cooler room. It will be very helpful if you keep a fan, like an oscillating fan, or a fan on a ceiling fan, or like this, for instance. This is bigger. This is a moderate size one. They have even smaller fans. This clips, so I can clip this onto my desk or onto my computer or onto my chair. And now it's convection now. You've got moving air going across the surface of your skin. And now the heat that's being, the blood flow is being brought to the surface, the sweat that might be coming onto your body. When there's convection, when there's a wind of some sort, it will help to expedite the cooling effect. And as you all have seen, I'm sure they have these little tiny, they're usually impulse buys at a cashier, that you can, put on your phone or just hold in your hand. They're battery operated, and you just have it on, so it's just that's convection helping to cool you, during, you can put something like this, on the side of your night table and have it be blowing on you, not your partner. So if the fan on the ceiling is freezing them out, a smaller fan next to your bed could be a very effective way at helping you to fall asleep if you're having, heat issues and it's prohibiting you from falling asleep. Now, a really great hack is if you're waking up and then you're waking up because you're hot, is to take, again, one of these ice things, put this underneath your pillow, and I would open this up if I was going to do this, so it's wider, and you put it under your pillow and then go to sleep. Now you wake up and you're having heat issues. You turn your pillow around. That side of the pillow has been cooling now on the ice, and now you put your head back on it, and now that can help to cool you down. So if you're waking up because you're having heat conduction issues and you can't fall back to sleep, that's a great hack. You could also, again, go to sleep with these things, a smaller one or this size, wrapped around your elbows or maybe around your feet, because now that's going to help you to, regulate your core temperature to help you to fall asleep. And then it's still on you, a couple hours later, they're still somewhat cool. So they're keeping you cooler. So you might avoid waking up by being overheated. And then another hack is to take a cold or cool shower right before you go to bed. And that is now cooling your skin, but now that is also going to work to cool your core. And even if it's like a half a degree or 1 degree when you go to sleep, that could be helpful for you to not wake up by being overheated in the hours later in the night. So how to manage the heat, those are when you're trying to get better sleep and you're waking up and you're waking up because of heat issues. Those hacks I just gave you could be very, very, very helpful. I'm looking at my list over here to make sure I got on everything. Yeah, I guess 2 other things I want to say is, blood flow, and like I said, bringing the capillaries opening and the arteries and veins that are close to the surface. If you are low in hydration, you don't have as much blood flow, and the lower the blood flow, the lower the effectiveness of the blood carrying the heat from the core. So be very, very mindful of staying hydrated. Rule of thumb is 8-ounce glasses of something liquid a day. I think there's a huge variation for that depending on the person, but try to focus on getting at least that, would be a good place to start. If you have a device that measures hydration level, like there's scales now you can get, Ironman and Tanita scales and body composition scales that will tell you hydration levels. You can monitor that if you're having, heat conduction issues postmenopausal, just like people have blood pressure cuffs and they're monitoring their blood pressure. We have a lot of devices that are now available to us that we can have in our own homes that in years past we would have had to go to a doctor or a clinician to get that information. We can get it at our fingertips now. So keeping yourself hydrated is also going to be a method on how to manage the changes in heat regulation post-menopausal. And then the final one, this is not rocket science, but dress in layers if you're during the day. Light, breathable fabrics, but that way you can take a layer off and take another layer off, and then help with the heat regulation. But then I have found that even though I might have had a hot, spell, an hour or two of struggling with heat, when that passes, or I don't know if it passes, but then I find that if the temperature then goes down a little bit, the environment changes, I now get chilled. So now if you've got layers, you can put another layer on. And I'm not talking about sweaters per se, but like a linen and then a cotton and then a wicking something, and then you can take a layer on, take a layer off, put it back on. Because the heat regulation issue is the main thing. But like I said, I personally have noticed that I also get cold afterwards, like a chill. And if you have a light, linen something to put over you, that can help with that. All right. So lots of tools for you. This is your new you, a postmenopause. This isn't going to change anymore. So having these new operating behavioral medicine, behaviors for the new operating system on how to manage heat or vasoregulation is really important postmenopausal. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is part 1 of a 6-part series. I have 5 more specifics I'm going to get into that, I encourage you to watch all 6 because each one of them is important and each one of them is something that you have to learn how to manage from now until you move into the next realm. And so I want to help. All right. Please, if you enjoyed this, click subscribe on whatever, venue you are watching this on. Please check out my Your Second 50 platform because I have just library of information, resource information for men and women, not just women, but definitely 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and older, and the issues that we are facing and what I call behavioral medicine for how to manage. And so we can be our optimal selves so that we all can make our second 50 even better than our first 50. All right, everybody. Be well until I see you again. And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.